So what is Grief Share?
Grief Share is a 13-week DVD series that it talks just about every case of grief you could possibly go through, and it's got things like some of them are is this normal, this thing that I'm going to called grief. Another one are some of the challenges of grief. And then we take 2 weeks on the journey of grief. And the whys, grief in relationships, guilt and anger. And then a lot of people get stuck in grief. So we spend a lot of time on that. And Grief Share is, it's a video series, but sometimes people just want to talk. And we'll, a lot of weeks we'll just sit and talk. Most people, I don't think Teri and I have ever asked anybody to share their story. It just comes out, usually when they're more comfortable. We've heard people say, the last thing I want to do is come and cry in front of a bunch of people.
But they end up doing that, and it's good. I think they realize that tears are God's way of, taking those hurts away. And
so it's a video series, and then they can share if they want to. Is this like a weekly thing? Do they just go once a week? Or is there a series where they get to the end and you say you're done? Or is it like you can come as long as you need to come?
Well, it's a 13-week series, but we've had people come because usually we kind of go on the church cycle. So we meet on Tuesdays when there's nothing else going on, so they don't have to feel awkward about that. And so we've had, usually we can get through the complete series 3 times in the church cycle. And we've had people who go through it all 3 times and then come back the next year, because it's kind of wherever you are in grief, it speaks to that.
I see.
When you went through the first session of it, you were just brand new in grief. So then at the next time, you've kind of processed some of that. And so people have said, I wasn't even thinking that way when I came the first time. So yeah, they're welcome to come as much or as little as they want. And you can start whenever. If you started in the middle of it, it doesn't make any difference. It's not like you missed something from the week before.
I see.
And even in the 7 years that we've done this, we're always gleaning new stuff that I don't even remember hearing that. So there's learning even later on.
Do you want to read your thing?
Well, this was
just some of the topics.
The topics is this normal? The challenges of grief, the journey of grief, 1 and 2. Grief in your relationships, particularly like with kids, how to walk through grief with them, being honest with those who comfort you, and the why. The why is, you could spend a lot of time on why, because people want to know.
Or how long is this going to take? And really, it's the rest of your life. God gives you joy in the midst of that, but it's a lifelong process.
There's guilt and anger. I can think of, we've had the sister of a boy that was murdered. We've had the parents of a girl that was murdered.
Or suicide.
And it's those griefs that there's other stuff. And it's not like a spouse died, your family came together, but it's some of those circumstances, automobile accidents, somebody's missing and they never find them. And they spend a week on complicating factors, and then stuck, lessons of grief. Like, for instance, you know that when the holidays come, and we purposely have grief share through the holidays, because those are moments that, those are the hard times, the birthdays, the first birthday, the first Christmas, the first Valentine's Day. There's a lot of those that are really hard for people. Heaven, you spend a week on heaven, and then what do I do now is the last one. So how do I continue to live this life without, my spouse, without my child? So that's the lessons. And then the other thing that Teri and I do is we let people know that, this isn't your choice where you are. But believe it or not, this is what you're going to do now. After you get through grief, you're going to become somebody's support system. Because people trust, when they're going through grief, they trust other people that have walked that road. And that comfort that I've received, I need to pass it on to others. And that's what we need to do. And so it's not just us, and we're not building into anybody. We're just walking them through the season, but they need to know that this is something that it's like, it's not one of those things I'd raise my hand and say, oh, I want to do that. It's like, no, it's just part of your life now. And because you got a story. Everybody's got a story.
So what do we not say to somebody in grief? You've probably
I know
heard
how
a
you're
lot
feeling. I know, unless you really have experienced grief, those are the kind of things. Or even if you've experienced, because we don't know how their grief is. Everybody grieves differently, and so that one of those things is, oh, I feel your pain, this or that, because it really angers people when somebody tries to say those things. You don't have to say anything, just a pat on the back that lets them know that you care is probably the best thing. But I think most of them, there is a video, that your well-meaning friend that says, we need to clean out the closet. We need to do these kind of things. And it's okay to say, no, I'm not ready for that, And we're well-meaning. We want to help. We just want to surround them and do something for them. And the best thing you can do is let them ask or tell you what they need.
We've talked mostly about death. Is there other tragedy, divorce? Do you get people that have just experienced something in their life they consider a tragedy?
Well, I think we had somebody ask one.
Yeah, at one point there was a divorce care group meeting, but they've kind of tried to make what we do anyway, just the loss of a loved one in death, not a divorce or.
And it really should be that, I think, because death is so much. It's the oddest thing. It's not like anything else, because it's, what's more final than death? You can have the end of a relationship, but the two people are still around. And where death is, you have to deal with, even if you hated them, it's
final.
It's final. And it's different than anything else. It's not, your dog, it's different. It's your cat. Those are all hard things to go through, but the death of a human being is different. And
what happens when there's two people or a number of people in a family and they're all doing something different? They're all expressing their grief in a different way. Can it cause problems or resentment? I would think it would.
Mm-hmm.
We had a family that came, and the husband was trying to be supportive, but his thing was, you just need to get over this. And so there was that rub that way. And it was good that they came, because we could say, she's never going to get over this grief, but God's going to heal her, heal the pain, and she will be back to her normal self. But you got to give her time. You just need to love her through this experience and be her support. So it has been that way. Or kids who shut down completely and don't want to have anything to do. It is a unique situation. And like I said, everybody grieves differently. Some people close themselves off. Some people are out there in the world and need to be around people. It's just whatever works for you. But it does cause conflict in a family. And they address that in the video. It's amazing. All those things that you think are insurmountable, they talk about in the video. Suicide, all of it. They just address it all. Which is, I think this program is wonderful in that it speaks to everything that people come in and ask, well, this is what I want to know. We have one for you, so it's been good that way.
And then they have homework if they want to do it. Some don't. We had a guy, he would take his book and stick it in his mailbox and then go home. And he came for
3 years.
3 years. And but you can go through it. Goes day by day through the week until we meet again. So if you're a note taker or I think it gets in your mind that, okay, I'm on a journey. I'm not just wandering about, trying to figure out what to do. It kind of gives people something to do. And I really think it's been helpful to a lot of people to walk through that.
So the name Grief Share, I have some introverts in my family that the word share, I think, would just put the wall up and they would wonder whether they could share.
I thought about this on the way home. It's not like a AA meeting where you...
Hi, my name is...
Yeah.
And I'm really upset.
It's more relaxed. We never prod anybody to talk. But we'll go through the lesson. We'll... if somebody wants to talk about it, then we can.
Well, and it's interesting when people first come, they're very quiet. Some of them don't say a word. And by the time they come back 2 or 3 weeks later, they're ready to tell you their story. And some of them will say, this isn't who I am. But they feel comfortable enough to share. And I think it helps. I think really and truly to share that, how the person was special to you. And I think only somebody who's lost a special person can understand that uniqueness there. And so I think they just relax.
Zig Ziglar he's since passed away, but they lost a daughter, and he speaks in this thing. And he said that grief will last as long as what you love somebody. So you can figure the more you love them, the longer and harder grief is going to be for you. But then they also talked about, I've been smiling all day, and it's only been 2 weeks since this person died. So then all the guilt that you get just from being happy.
Shouldn't be happy.
Right.
Yeah. And I've lived that, and I know what that's like. It's like, I shouldn't be happy, and the book and the DVD addresses that, helping you walk through those things that come up that you think are okay, and they probably are, but then you have guilt. Matter of fact, I think there's a whole series on guilt.
Mm-hmm. So. I should have, if I'd been there, if I did this, if those, we have a tendency to do that about everything. So,
in closing, tell us again when you meet and where you meet, and if a person wants to talk to you beforehand, is there a way they could do that?
Well, we meet Tuesday nights at 6:30 at Moses Lake Alliance Church, and we usually are done by 8 or earlier if somebody needs. It's not like that, you can come and go. If they want to call and ask about it, they can call either Dave or myself. My cell phone number is 750-8299, and Dave's is 855-2963. And we're willing to talk whenever.
What's the best way to get out your front door? Let's say you're afraid, you've never been to this building before. It's large. They might be nervous they get lost. Like, should they call you? What's the best way for them to get in there and figure out where to go, when it is, who's who?
Well, and I say give Dave or I a call, because we'll gladly come pick you up the first time that you need to go. And otherwise, if you choose to go yourself, I always stand out front waiting to make sure that I can direct people to where they need to go and just welcome them there. So it's not like they're walking into, there's nobody here, where do I go? I always stand out in the lobby and make sure that they feel welcome. So they're not walking into a room by themselves either.
And how many years you've been doing this?
7.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what to do now. You haven't seen it all yet. But
That's right, and we're never going to be experts, but we have walked that journey.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Unless you guys think of any important information.
Yeah, I think we told them when it is and where and...
Okay.